Now we have some news coming in. Let's get you the updates from Boulder in Colorado, where a mass shooting incident has occurred at a grocery store.
And I want to say to the community, I am so sorry this incident happened. And we are going to do everything in our power to make sure this suspect has a thorough trial and we do a thorough investigation. And with this, I'm going to turn this over to Governor Polis. Sir.
Thank you, Chief, for your extraordinary work the last day and a half, and there's going to be a lot more ahead. And of course, I'm standing here not just as governor, but as someone who has called this community my home for most of my life, and who's shopped at that King Soopers in Table Mesa many times across my life. And you know, my heart aches today, and I think all of ours does, as Coloradans, as Americans, for this senseless tragedy, the loss of life, as we hear those names. Everybody, and Boulder County is a small community. We're all looking over the list. Do we know anybody? I'm sure that we know people that know people, people of all ages, and people who started their day with a cup of coffee and reading the morning paper, or perhaps getting their kids ready and putting on a winter coat to go out. Maybe they were making last-minute spring break plans, but none of them expected that this would be their last day here on the planet. It's a simple run for milk and eggs, you know, getting ready to shop, going in a regular way we all live our lives, something that we can all identify with, led to a complete tragedy here today. And our hearts ache for those who lost their lives, for their families, for the survivors left behind, for the survivors who were able to get out, who have scars that can't be seen but are every bit as painful. And I want to thank the Boulder Police Department, the first responders, so many police from agencies across the state came to the call in the time of need. Not only did we lose 10 lives, but this is real horror and terror for all of us. The simple act of shopping at a grocery store. And in the last day and a half, the last 12 hours, the families of our victims, our friends, they've been notified of their loss. That's why these names weren't released yesterday. The families have been notified. Everybody quietly hoping that it wasn't your friend or your coworker or your family.
Now we are being joined by our correspondent Susan Tehrani from New York for more on this story. Susan, thanks for being with us. We've just heard that press briefing there from the governor calling this a senseless tragedy. Do we have any details on the accused at this time? We did hear reports of an injured person in police custody who was picked up from the location of the shootout.
That's right. We don't have the details of this individual. We do know that he was dragged out of the supermarket, allegedly injured in the leg, in handcuffs, and taken into police custody. Officials are saying that they're holding off on finding out and releasing the names of those individuals who have been his victims, because they want to notify the families first. This investigation, they're also saying, will likely take at least 5 days. We don't know more about whether or not his motives were, slanted towards which way, one way or the other, and we don't have the name of the man in custody as of yet.
Right, we're going to cross live to the governor's press briefing. Stay with us, Susan.
The state of Colorado has 35 people from the Colorado Bureau of Investigations and state troopers assisting the investigation since yesterday. We've offered to help with victim services as well. And of course, Boulder community has the full support of state and federal law enforcement as we go about the difficult task ahead. The unfairness of it all, this is going to be difficult for people to process. Flags had barely been raised back to full mast after the tragic shooting in Atlanta that claimed 8 lives, and now a tragedy here close to home at a grocery store that could be any of our neighborhood grocery stores. You know, this last weekend in Colorado, many of us had the opportunity to enjoy the beautiful spring outdoor weather, spending time in the great outdoors, a sense of renewal, a sense of hope ahead. Perhaps that we were on the precipice of normalcy. I hope that the victims today got some simple pleasure on that beautiful spring day before tragedy hit. I wish I could stand here and promise that the pain will heal quickly. It won't, but for the family and friends and our community, the loss endures. And at times like this, it's hard to see the light that shines through the darkness. We all need space to mourn, space to be angry, that's legitimate feeling, space to help those who are left behind, space to ask the simple question, why? Space to support those who made it out of the grocery store with their lives, with lifelong scars that we cannot see. Space to celebrate the 10 lives that were lost yesterday. And we need the fortitude to carry on. We will hold the evildoer responsible to the full extent of the law for his actions. And we will always remember the victims of the King Soopers shooting. I want to turn it over to the congressman from the area, Congressman Joe Neguse.
Now, Susan, coming back to you, it hasn't been mentioned in this press briefing yet, and we have, as you've said, no idea yet of the motive. Of the 10 who have been killed in this tragedy, have the police disclosed any of the victims' details, and how long do you anticipate this investigation will take until we receive these details?
We now know that the victims were from ages 20 years into their 60s. We do know on the accused that there was exchange of gunfire. The suspect was shot. He was transferred to the hospital. He is now in stable condition, and he has been charged with 10 counts of first-degree murder. We also know that police officers arrived at around 2:45 p.m. yesterday on the scene, and of course we also know that tragically the first officer who did arrive on the scene was killed as well yesterday. We heard the mayor speak, trying to console the community in Boulder, Colorado, and said that his police task force will do everything in their power to bring this perpetrator to justice and to try to find a motive as soon as possible. We've learned that it might take at least 5 days for this investigation to be ongoing to see what the real motives were, and we'll have more details as they develop. But you know, the state of Colorado is no stranger, unfortunately, to shootings like this, the most notorious and infamous one being in 1999, the Columbine shooting, and then more recently in Aurora.
Right, Susan, thank you for being with us and for bringing us those details, and of course you'll be keeping us up to date with the latest as we learn more on this tragedy that has taken place in the US. WION, now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.